Welcome to Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I am Gary Gunderson. Today I have a Polish Tokarev known as the WZ-33. The WZ stands for Tsor, which means model, matching the Russian designation of the Tokarev, the TT-33, even though this was not produced by Poland until the 1940s. It's a semi-automatic design, chambered in the 7.62 by 25 Tokarev cartridge. Magazine is an 8+1 capacity. It's not considered a good carry pistol because it is not drop safe. The most distinctive looking feature on the Polish Tokarev is the pattern on the slide. Now, the Soviet or Russian TT-33s also had this slide pattern until 1945. So if you see it, it's either an older Russian version or a Polish Tokarev. That's because these were made under license from the Soviet Union with World War II machinery and drawings. Apart from that, the internals are all the same as the other Tokarevs. You have a slide release, a modern magazine release, and a trigger that wraps around the grip for a straight back pull. Like other Tokarevs, they did not originally have safeties, so any safety you see was added for importation laws. It has a lanyard loop near the bottom of the grip. The WZ-33 was the official sidearm for the Polish military from 1946 until sometime in the mid to late 60s when it was replaced by the Polish P-64. They continued in limited service and as a backup in storage until the early 90s. There are three patterns within the Polish Tokarevs: pre-production, early model, and late model, though there are no mechanical differences and the only changes are in the markings and on the grip panels. There were roughly 350 pre-production pistols starting in 1946. Markings are the only distinguishable features of these, featuring not only the FB in an inverted triangle on the slide, but a PW standing for military pistol in Polish. The date of manufacture on the slide is also parallel with the barrel, which is changed with the late models. These also started the pattern of serial numbers with a letter prefix followed by the numbers. These all have an A letter prefix, and the only reason these can be referred to as pre-production is that they were made on borrowed equipment before the factory was set up to proper production. The grips had prominent FB logos, though some had FB on one side and WP on the other, standing for Wojsko Polski. Early models began manufacturing in 1947, made on the permanently set up equipment, and no longer have the PW markings on the slide. Everything else is essentially the same, as they continued with the FB marking in the inverted triangle, and with the manufacturer dates on the slide parallel to the barrel. During importation, it looks like some of the grip panels were replaced in order to add the grips that allow the addition of safeties like this that cut away on the grip panels. So those grips are rare even on the early models that are in the United States. Serial numbers in the production series were continued in sequence with prefixes of B in 1947, C and E in 1948, G and part of H in 1949, and H continued in 1950. It was in 1950 that the late models began production with the K prefix. My example here is one of the late models. There continues to be no mechanical difference, but was made decidedly more plain, presumably as an attempt to hide where it was produced. The grips became more plain with just these vertical lines, and the FB for the radom factory was removed, replaced by the circle or oval 11, which you can see there, and also appears on other Polish items of the Soviet era. As you can see, the date of manufacture also becomes perpendicular to the slide with the circle 11 stamping. Production of this late model continued until sometime in 1955. This run represents the majority of Polish Tokarevs and will be the most common type you will come across. The prefixes continued after K in 1950 with M in 1951. Then they really ramped up with PA, PC, PT, and PK in 1952. PK continued into 1953 alongside AB, BM, and MA. AD, AR, BR, and DR were in 1954, and finishing off with KB and RM in 1955. There is a substantial price difference between the early and late models. During my research, I found what I believe to be a fake that sold on Gunbroker. The serial number looks re-stamped on the slide, and it lacks any prefix letters on the slide. Also, the prefix letters it's matching to on the frame indicate a late model. I'm not saying all of my research is perfect, and maybe I'm wrong and this is some anomaly, but it looks wrong on multiple levels, so buyer beware on that sort of thing. If it makes it worth an extra $2,000, someone may decide faking it is worth it. Around 225,000 Polish Tokarevs were made during production, though from what I have seen and read, the exact number of each year is not known. Observationally, I haven't seen any early models with more than 4 numbers following the prefix, so one can presume those prefixes are limited to 10,000 or less, as the A block started at 1001. So there may not be a B0001, for example, but that is speculation on my part. Meanwhile, late production pistols have 5 numbers following the prefix letter. The largest known serial number I've seen among collectors is M41000, which makes sense if that was the only letter used in 1951, which is presumably when they were at the height of production. Serial numbers are found on the left side of the frame above the grip panel, as well as on the top of the slide, where the date of production and Circle 11 is, as mentioned. The hammer assembly is stamped with the last few serial numbers, and additional parts of the assembly even have the last 2. The barrel is also stamped with the serial number, but it is not visible until you disassemble the pistol. Some of my research indicated that the barrels only had the last few digits stamped like the removable hammer assembly, but mine has the entire sequence plus the prefix letters. Others I have seen on late pattern match this with the entire serial number and letter prefix, so I don't know if that's just an early model thing because I haven't seen any early model barrels disassembled, or if the research was just incorrect. Barrel bushings also have the last 3 serial numbers. Now, mine does not. I read on the product listing page of a dealer that some of the Polish Tokarev barrel bushings did not have a serial number marking, but I can't say if that's accurate or not. Looking at my example, this safety was added for importation, and it's kind of a different variety. There's all sorts of different safeties that are used. This one in particular is bad because they had to shave off part of the grip panel, and they also removed part of the bracket for disassembly on the other side as well, so it can slide under this protrusion. The grip may also be a replacement because a lot of the late model Tokarevs I've seen have a thumb rest on the upper part of the grip for right-handed shooters. 2 magazines were issued with the firearm, and Polish magazines were initially issued with a lanyard loop on the bottom of the floor plate here, but that feature was dropped at some point along the way. I'm not exactly sure when. Magazines were serialized and also had the year printed on the magazine body, which is unique to Polish Tokarev models. Unfortunately, I don't have any Polish Tokarev magazines in my collection, and tracking them down can be difficult, as generally searching will just lead to generic Tokarev magazine listings saying it will fit Polish, Russian, Romanian, Chinese, etc., as they are all interchangeable with the other countries' versions. Polish Tokarev holsters look similar to other countries in design, simple flap holsters, spare magazine, cleaning rod, but the distinctive feature is on the bottom where they have this oval sewn into the holster instead of coming to a natural point. This is distinctive to the Polish holsters, and they're difficult to locate online, kind of like the magazines, because they are often mislabeled or simply says it will fit Polish blah blah blah, like I mentioned. But that's what you really want to look for. Find a photo if you see that is a Polish holster. The stamp on this one indicates that it was the Polish Air Force use, but it's too faded for me to properly make out the year of production. One of the interesting things about the Polish Tokarev pistols is that they also manufactured cutaway versions, which are interesting looking. Used for training troops and armorers on the pistol, there were lots of milling cuts that were marked with red paint to highlight the exposed internal workings. Cutaway pistols have been found ranging from 1950 to 1955, but some aren't dated. Some do not have a letter prefix, but others have a W or P as the prefix letter. There are also some dummy pistols with a CW or CWZ prefix as well. Takedown is the same as other Tokarev pistols, which we will do quickly for proper cleaning and maintenance purposes. First, you have to break the bracket by pushing over. Using a cartridge works as well. Pull it off the rest of the way. Slightly pull back the slide, which will let you to pop out the slide release. Careful that it doesn't spin around. Also, you can see the slide release was cut to make room for the safety as well. This will allow the slide to come off, and you may want to hold the spring because it can fly out. Rotate the barrel bushing 180 degrees, pull it out. Make sure the toggle is forward on the barrel to pull it out and remove it. And that's the field stripping. The hammer assembly also pulls out, as you can see. So it is a very simple process and quick. When reassembling, you first put the barrel back into the slide, and you will have to make sure that this link is swung down when you reassemble it. I've come across a Tokarev where it was somehow reassembled with it up, and it just does not work and will not, the slide will be locked into place. So just make sure it's swung down, and as you move it, sometimes it will swing back up. You have to manually put it into place, so keep that in mind. Barrel bushing 180 degrees, flip it around, and then you have to stuff the recoil spring into place. Make sure this cut, so it's semicircular indentation, rides on the barrel. And this is the hardest part because the spring does kind of want to kink out since there's no length guide rod, but you just have to get it into place. And I recommend holding it with your thumb once it's in until the frame of the pistol holds it into place. Sliding in the hammer assembly is easy to do one-handed. Probably should do it before I put the slide together. Then you simply slide it back on, back slightly, and you'll be able to see through when it's proper. You don't need to go that far back to get it aligned. You can see there. Put the side release through, and then you just have to push the bracket back across once you don't misalign it, and there you have it. You see the little import safety working. So the removable hammer assembly is the same across the Tokarev clones. It's a nice idea because if there's some sort of issue, you can just pop this out and put in a new one without having to do a lot of work. It may seem somewhat wasteful for a Soviet country, but is also very simple, and it means you don't have to have a lot of proper education or training to just pop it out and then slide in a new one. A little extra bit of disassembly is to take off these grip panels. There's a little T inside that you can take a screwdriver and shift over and it will fall out like so. So that's the kind of T you manipulate. This holds it in place. This lets it fall loose. And then you can access the other one without anything, just simply rotating this bar. And it's simple to put back in place, just the reverse. And this is the same across different Tokarev models made by various countries. That's it. That's what I have for today. An interesting version of the Tokarev pistol with a slightly different history and look, though it is another Tokarev clone. It shoots the same. Some people think they're flippy. The Tokarev cartridge is kind of hot, but I think these are very fun to shoot, pleasant to shoot. I think they're fairly accurate for what they are. A nice piece of Cold War history. Stands out a bit with the slide pattern, but otherwise functions the same. I like shooting these, like I said. I find them quite pleasant, though I know some people don't particularly enjoy them. Anyways, if you've made it to the end of the video, please let me know what you thought in the comments below. I am particularly interested if other people's barrels have the full markings like mine do, or if that's just the late models, if that's also the early models. Because like I said in my research, I couldn't find a definitive answer. So if you know that, please let me know. And if you've made it to the end, please consider liking the video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to my channel, as it can help it grow. I have a video on the Chinese Type 54 Tokarev already. I have other Tokarevs as well that I can make videos on in the future if people are interested. Let me know what you think. I also have a Patreon you can join and a Discord you can join as well. Links are available. And thanks for watching.